Hey everyone, and welcome to our Q&A presented by Just Love. I'm your host Paula Jane, and I'm talking to Judy Carroll. Judy is an internationally known author. Her books include The Zeta Message, Human by Day, Zeta by Night, and her most recent book, Extraterrestrial Presence on Earth, Lessons in History. Welcome, Judy.
Hi Paula, hi everyone.
Today we're moving on from the origins of humans. This is a huge subject, and Judy did a really great job in breaking it down to a level where we could better understand it. So thanks again, Judy. And like you've said before, the narrative that you presented in our Just Love series and the narrative you present in your book, Extraterrestrial Presence on Earth, is your truth. There will be other versions given by other people who are expressing their truth. As the Esatani Zeta teacher Bashar says through his channel Darrell Anchor, it is not this or that, but rather this and that. The best way to access the value of what you're connecting with is to sense into whether it's coming from a consciousness of love or a consciousness of fear. That is the ultimate test for all such information.
Yes, for sure, Paula. I know that so much channeled information is coming through right now and has done for years. The thing to understand is the one sending the message through is limited by the consciousness of the receiver. It can be likened to using a typewriter or computer keyboard. If the keyboard has letters missing, then using it is difficult and limiting for the typist. In this way, a higher being sending a message through an earth plane channel is limited by the channel's soul awareness. The information has to get through the filters of the channel's own mind, and during this process can become warped by their mindset and belief system. There's also a lot of trickery going on. The authorities down here have had access since the 1950s to technology that allows them to speak inside the head of anyone who has psychic sensitivity. Thus, misleading messages are being put out, purportedly from spiritual masters, ETs, angels, Pleiadians, etc., but in actual fact they're coming from a negative agency right here on Earth.
Yeah, I guess again the proof of authenticity is in the content. Is it coming from love or fear? If there's any hint of ego or fear-mongering, then take it with a very large grain of salt. I do notice that labels are used quite often in channeled messages, with many beings introducing themselves as Archangel Michael, a Palladian, an Ascended Master, or whatever, and the ones who send information through to you are labelled either Zetas or Greys, so that's sending information through to Judy. So as humans, we tend to put a label on everything, which provides us with a point of reference, which we do tend to need when operating as we are through our 3D reality. However, these labels can cause confusion. So what I'd like to discuss today is the labels of 3D, 4D and 5D. Everyone is talking about this now, so what do these labels really mean?
Okay, as many of us are aware, a planetary shift is now happening, which means more light is being directed towards Earth and humanity. In connection with this, the terms third, fourth and fifth dimension keep coming up, as does the claim that Earth plane humanity is moving from fourth to fifth world consciousness. So what does all of this really mean? Most people know what 3D third dimension is, that it refers to the everyday physical world of solid matter that we're all familiar with. But what about fourth dimension and fifth dimension? These terms can be confusing, so let's talk about what are they and how the consciousness aspect ties in with this.
Yes, these are interesting labels, but it is all about consciousness. Our consciousness is expanding as more and more light floods the Earth plane.
More light is most certainly being directed towards Earth as a result of the higher energy photon belt through which Earth is passing, and also the planetary alignments that are happening, during which planets both in and out of our solar system become energetically aligned in a way that impacts strongly upon Earth plane humanity by helping to direct the light energy waves.
Yeah, these are the light energy waves, the light codes that are coming in.
This extra light and energy is enabling clearer seeing, hence so much of the previously hidden dark side of humanity, all the corruption and control that's been going on for millennia, is being brought to light. All the covert manipulation of humanity by religion, governments, science, the film and entertainment industry, the pharmaceutical industry, etc., is now being flushed to the surface, as needs to happen before such a deep-seated infection can be healed.
Not the most attractive analogy, but certainly the most impactful. But what about fourth and fifth dimensions? There's so much misunderstanding surrounding these terms, so light needs to be shed here also.
Yes, well, to start with, fourth dimension is not time, as some claim. Time, as we know it on Earth, doesn't extend past third dimensional reality.
Good point. Fourth dimension is definitely not time, nor are any dimensions. Linear time as we experience it is strictly a 3D earth plane concept.
Exactly. And this is the reason why many people who've had otherworldly experiences often have what's known as missing time. An example of this is in contact with ETs, which has been experienced by hundreds of thousands of people from all countries and cultures on Earth. Often these encounters seem to last for hours, but in 3D time only minutes have passed. It can also work around the other way, with the encounter seeming like minutes or seconds, but the contactee finds an hour or more missing from their day. What happens during these encounters is that the experiencer's consciousness is taken out of the limited confines of 3D time.
Yeah, this explanation of time not playing a part in these experiences and the fact that it's all consciousness really helps people who are undergoing these contact events. So back to the fourth dimension.
Okay, fourth dimension also involves the astral plane, which is a mind construct of the belief systems of the earth plane collective consciousness. As quantum physics is now proving, we create our own reality through the way we think. And the fourth dimension astral plane is a result of all the belief systems of Earth. It's also the testing ground for whether we've mastered positive mind creativity or not. The astral plane is spoken of in a very ancient religious text known as the Book of Creation, which according to legend was written by Abraham. In this book, the astral plane is referred to as a depth of good and a depth of evil. It's a region created out of earth plane human consciousness that people perceive as either heaven or hell, which is higher astral and lower astral.
When you say that the fourth dimensional astral plane is the testing ground for whether we've mastered positive mind creativity or not, would that be the same as saying that the fourth dimension is where we are consciously aware of the choice that we consistently have to make between love and fear as our consciousness expands?
Yes, it depends upon how much you've done your spiritual work and opened your mind down here in 3D conscious awareness. It's in our day-to-day lives where the love-fear choice has to be made. Once we've made a choice of love, then we're able to bypass the astral plane. If we haven't progressed in that way, then we'll continue to attract negative and or fearful experiences into our lives. Once we start to awaken, understanding begins to dawn that we ourselves are attracting these experiences. The 4D astral plane is the common meeting ground between 3D matter and 5D higher mind consciousness, and is where many off-planet and other contact experiences take place. 3D-oriented people cannot perceive or believe in anything that can't be measured and seen with their own eyes. They're totally focused on the material physical world and have no interest in anything beyond that, except perhaps a basic once-a-week visit to church in acknowledgement of a God figure somewhere up there that they've been taught about through religion. This is the reason why there's such a strong movement happening worldwide towards fundamentalist-type religions.
Why do you think this is happening? Is it because people are firmly based in 3D and are only interested in what they can see physically?
The planetary shift that we're now going through is beginning to impact even upon those who are stuck in a 3D mindset. Many people are aware the change is happening and it rattles their world, so they seek comfort and reassurance in old belief systems that they feel comfortable with.
Yes, traditional religion is part of the old paradigm, a paradigm that is falling away as it's been created out of 3D energy. Ideally, at the heart of every religion there is love. However, over time, mankind has not necessarily intentionally, but has successfully allowed fear to seep in. As a result, belief systems have been created which do not always reflect pure unconditional love. fear agendas of judgment and ego have been allowed to distort the original message of love. This is why so many people are turning away from traditional religion. Having said that, mind control, fear, and ego is also expressed through some New Age belief systems as well. However, as our consciousness expands, we'll be turning inward and questioning all the beliefs which have come from elsewhere and which may not be the ultimate truth that they've claimed to be. More and more awakening people will discover that they're not being true to themselves by adhering to those handed down beliefs that have been passed on by someone else, however well-meaning. People are waking up to the fact that the God spark is within, it is not outside us. To truly find God, we must learn to look within. I do want to strongly emphasize here that there's nothing wrong with where anyone is, providing that they're coming from unconditional love. For example, if someone is involved with a fundamentalist religion or a cult of some sort, so be it. It's their journey. It's where they need to be right now. And it's not our job to judge others. Unconditional love is expressed through acceptance, respect, non-judgment, and honour towards everybody's choices and beliefs. At the same time, what we are highlighting here is that things are changing as our consciousness expands. The veils are lifting, so to speak, and we are paying more attention to our resonance. This resonance is the energy signature that we emit. We are first and foremost an energy being, and as we pay more and more attention to our inner resonance, we will be guided back to our personal truth.
Yes, Paula, fundamentalist religion appeals to those who can't get past thinking of God as a patriarchal father figure sitting up on a cloud, doling out reward and punishment in the form of a heaven and a hell. Such people find in fundamentalist religion a safe and familiar haven that they feel okay with. There's nothing too supernatural here. It's all safely based in solid 3D reality and guided by religious texts which have been interpreted, reinterpreted and misinterpreted at the limited 3D level. However, as more light is directed towards Earth, more and more people are waking up to the fact that there's way more to reality than what can be readily perceived with our limited 5 senses. Thus, they begin to open up to the 4th dimension, which is where the love-fear component really hits home and gets tested.
So if we were to go back to physics and acknowledge the fact that we are an energy form, what is happening with this shift is that the energy is vibrating at a faster rate. This in turn is causing some of us to have experiences that we've never had before, and this can be frightening because it's so foreign to us.
Most of us do first react with fear and or denial when confronted with something like this, an ET, a ghost or a vision of some sort that's outside of our everyday physical 3D reality. This is just human nature, the physiological fight or flight reaction carried over from our lower animal nature. If we're firmly rooted in 3D, we find it very hard to move past this fear. But this is where the 4D test lies as to whether we're ready for 5D reality or not.
Yeah, that's a really good example. And it is what I meant by saying that some of us are having experiences that we've never had before. Our energy frequency is speeding up, which causes our senses to become heightened. And because of this, we experience things more intensely.
Yes, this is the area in which some of the greys are working as triers and testers of souls, as was explained to author and experiencer Whitley Strieber. We cannot evolve into 5D reality consciousness until the fear barrier is cleared and overcome. We simply cannot exist or operate in 5D while fear controls any aspect of our being. Fear is low frequency energy, love is high frequency. The fear we're referring to here is fear of different, not fear of danger, but the two often go hand in hand when we blindly perceive different as automatically being a potential danger and a threat. Humans of Earth have been brainwashed over millennia and the herd instinct encouraged to fear and dislike anyone or anything that is different or other and not part of the herd. It's this inbred fear instinct that's the basis of all racism, religious intolerance and war, none of which have a place in 5D reality consciousness. The 4th dimension astral plane, which lies between 3rd and 5th dimensions, is the ring pass knot, the airlock that stops us moving through until we're ready, and also provides us with the awareness of whether we're able to operate at 5D level or not. Planet Earth is moving through this phase at the moment and has been for some time, hence the growing number of non-physical experiences such as contact with extraterrestrials and interdimensionals. No negative lower frequency extraterrestrials can enter the Earth plane energy field, but lower interdimensionals can, because the fourth dimensional astral plane from whence they come is energetically linked with our own 3D Earth plane consciousness. The reason for this is that the 4D astral plane has been created by the collective consciousness of Earth plane humanity and includes human-type beings who've dwelt on Earth before modern-day humans, such as the Reptarians, the Ant people, and also the Sasquatch people.
Okay, so we've established that 3D, 4D, and 5D is all consciousness. And that consciousness is playing out on Earth as a belief system in both 3D and 4D. Can these belief systems appear as concrete? And is this where the portholes come in?
Okay, I'll try to explain this a bit more clearly. 3D, 4D, and 5D are energy frequencies or dimensional frequencies, nothing more, that are all right here, right now. Because planet Earth is multidimensional, how we can experience these frequencies or whether we even can experience them consciously depends upon where our consciousness is focused. The portals are gateways between the dimensions, and any entity that knows how to use these gateways is able to step through them, from one dimensional reality through to another. The different dimensions aren't clear-cut and separate, they're all here. In some cases, the entity will retain its normal energy frequency. In other cases, its vibrational frequency will change to the same rate as that of whichever dimension it stepped into. So when they come through to our 3D reality, they can impact upon the environment by causing a noise or movement in their vicinity. The Sasquatch people do this, sometimes leaving visible evidence, such as footprints behind. Such beings can come through into 3D and appear as solid physical beings. This is the mystery behind many of the big cat sightings, the Loch Ness Monster, the Sasquatch, etc. Not all are negative, and in fact some vibrate at a slightly higher frequency than do Earth humans. But it's from these other dimensional inner Earth planes that all the negative interference is coming from. It's not from off-planet.
So the fourth dimension is a dual dimension with both good and not so good, just the same as in 3D.
Yes, it is. It's very polarised, because it's been created out of the Earth-human collective consciousness. As I mentioned earlier, it's been described in an ancient text as a depth of good and a depth of evil. This astral plane, fourth dimension, is where some of the so-called whites or Nordics are based, the tall, blonde, blue-eyed beings that are often mistaken for ETs. This is the image of angels, and has been created in people's minds by the Anunnaki controllers who are behind many of the religions of Earth, and also the Aryan ideal promoted by the Nazis. Hitler was obsessed with finding an entrance or portal to the inner Earth where the Thule Society was based that had such a strong influence on him. There are positive off-planet extraterrestrial beings too who fit this image, for example the Pleiadians and Lyrans in their physical forms. However, the inner Earth negative white sometimes poses Pleiadians or angels to deliver messages of fear and divisiveness. Our 3D, 4D barriers need to be broken down because our conscious awareness is expanding into 5D awareness. This is part and parcel of human evolution. In the human kingdom, evolution is not physical, it's a mind consciousness shift to higher and more expanded energy frequencies. In saying this, I'd like to add that, because of the polarity of the astral plane, it's super important to focus on positivity at this time. Because we create our reality with the way we think, and in 4D consciousness this happens more easily. If you focus on fear-based agendas and negativity, this is exactly what you'll attract to yourself. This is why the controllers promote so much fear. It's to keep people trapped at the lower levels of 4D. It's important to bear this in mind when you're surfing the net.
That is a really good incentive for us to try to stay as positive as we possibly can. I think too that we should repeat that in the human kingdom, evolution is not physical, it's a mind consciousness shift to higher and more expanded energy frequencies. This is so important for people to understand. So with that in mind, what is 5D? Is it about becoming more psychic, clairvoyant, etc., or is it something else?
Right, this is a mistake many people make, thinking that just because somebody is psychic or can see auras, then that makes them very spiritual. This is not necessarily so. The evolutionary mind consciousness expansion process that shifts us up to 5D does involve becoming more sensitive to energy, but many people who are operating and in fact stuck in 4D have these abilities, such as ESP, seeing auras, spirits, etc. 5D is more than this, being purely about self-realisation. To quote the Buddhist nun Tensin Palmo from Vicki Mackensie's book A Cave in the Snow, the whole point of spiritual practice is not to get visions, but to get realisations. A realisation is the white transparent light at the centre of the prism, not the rainbow colours around it. In other words, it's way more than 4D abilities of being psychic and clairvoyant. In fact, such abilities can cause us to become stuck and caught up in ego, which blocks us from progressing into 5D. Once we're able to reach the higher state of self-realisation, we then come to understand the true meaning of oneness, that we are all one. No matter what nation, what religion, what planet, or even what dimension upon which we're presently experiencing our reality, we are all one.
I really love that analogy. The whole point of spiritual practice is not to get visions, but to get realizations. A realization is the white transparent light at the centre of the prism, not the rainbow colours around it. Really good.
Yes, me too. This deeper understanding then breaks down all the barriers of fear with which we've surrounded ourselves, including our 4D fears of ETs, ghosts, etc. Self-realisation ignites the God spark within, which dissolves all fear, whether it's 3D or 4D. This is true self-empowerment as opposed to fear-based ego. There's a very good test being presented to Earth humans right now because of the COVID-19 virus, which is proving to be an excellent way of sorting the sheep from the goats, to borrow a phrase from the Bible, which refers to the present time. This is about the issue of wearing a face mask or not. This does not pertain to places where wearing a mask is law, where we have a choice in the matter. Some of those who choose to wear masks are quite abusive and even sometimes violent towards those who choose not to. The opposite also applies, with non-mask wearers becoming angry and abusive to those who choose to cover up. In such cases, both sides are stuck in 3D, 4D fear. When you operate through 5D consciousness, you really don't worry too much either way. You understand that both stances are based in fear, so you just stand back, show respect and allow.
Yeah, you've emphasised the wearing of a mask where it's compulsory. I wanted to make a comment on this. By referencing this, you are not acquiescing to anybody. We're living in a 3D pandemic, and by not following the law, you're only perpetuating more of 3D. The Great Awakening, the shift from 3D to 5D, is a shift in consciousness. This means it's about your consciousness and your awareness. It's about your own personal journey, being true to yourself and relinquishing any judgments that you may have about other people's journeys. It's about choosing love, returning to love, and accepting and allowing each and everyone their truth. Included in this is relinquishing worry about what other people think of you. This is 3D again. This is fear. You will most likely find yourself in some form of judgment as we navigate these exciting, albeit challenging times. Remember, this is natural. We are all spiritual beings having a human experience, so be gentle with yourself and others. Notice that you're at a choice point and ask yourself the question, am I coming from 5D love or am I coming from 3D fear? Be mindful that as we wake up, fear will come up. It will come up because it's needed to be addressed and cleared. And this fear can masquerade as judgment, righteousness, ego, and selfishness. If you're in a place where wearing a mask is compulsory, Remember, it's about your state of consciousness and your depth of love. You can wear a mask and be in fear, or you can wear a mask and come from love. It's not about your actions. It's about the consciousness motivating your actions. So, Judy, there's a lot of information here again, and it can be overwhelming. It's our goal to simplify where we can, because as we shift into 5D consciousness, it will get easier and easier. So can you sum up everything for us and put it into a nutshell?
Phew, okay, I'll try. To sum up, 3D consciousness is limited to 3D perception. This limitation consciousness is fertile ground for competition, conflict, separation and fear-based behaviours centred on limits, boundaries, not enough to go around, them and us. 4D consciousness brings with it an awareness that there is more out there than meets the eye, so it challenges deep-seated fears and brings them to the surface. It also challenges mindsets that have passed down over generations. It pushes us out of our depth, forcing us to sink or swim. 5D consciousness is for those of us who learn to swim. It opens us up to the awareness that God's source is not out there but rather within. This understanding empowers us beyond the need for competition, conflict, separation and neediness and into unconditional love. When we operate in 5D awareness, we transmit only love and react in love rather than in fear. Our energy field becomes unconditional love and we have the empowerment to transmute anything that is not love. Thus we are protected. There is nothing to fear. As we make the shift, at first we find ourselves oscillating between 3D and 5D. You are in a 4D when you begin to realise that this is happening, and begin to accept the fact that 3D reality is limited and that there's more out there. As more and more of us wake up, all of the things, places and people that we have in our life that are tied to 3D consciousness will gradually fall away, subtly and gracefully. The shift from 3D to 5D is also the shift from 4th to 5th world consciousness referred to in the Hopi prophecy. It refers to the same thing, a gradual ascension process for Earth human consciousness to a higher frequency of universal energy.
Wow, thanks, Judy. That was awesome. There's so much going on at this time on Earth. I know life is not easy for some, but just bear in mind that this is a birthing process and labour pains are involved, as it is usual with birthing. Trying to do your best to tune into positive rather than negative is so important right now because we do create our own reality. So right mindfulness is critical. So just to remind everybody, Judy's books are available through Amazon and Kindle, or you can go directly through Judy's website, which is included in the link below. And if you like this video, please share it with your family and friends and subscribe to this channel. Again, thanks Judy, and we look forward to our next Q&A session. Bye for now.